Good afternoon, everyone, or early evening, depending on from where you are listening to us. Welcome to MainStreetMediaUtah.com. I am one of the hosts, along with three of my dear friends and colleagues, and we are part of the Wellness Crusaders. So, first, let me read the Wellness Crusaders mission statement. The Wellness Crusaders internet radio show weaves together the critical and often overlooked aspects of wellness, including the role of soil health. This engaging series unveils a crucial truth. The health of our soil is deeply intertwined with nutrition, climate, and the sustenance of all life on Earth. For years, the rampant use of chemical farming methods has drastically depleted essential soil nutrients, leading to a decline in plant health and our overall well-being. These podcasts emphasize that nutrient-rich, high-quality food is the foundation of our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health. We address the critical issue of our diets being deficient in essential nutrients, a problem increasingly linked to the rising mental and physical health challenges. The Wellness Crusaders not only highlight these issues, but also provide answers and solutions. Upholding the wisdom of Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Committed to empowering lives, inspiring wellness, and offering solutions. We hope you will join the crusade. And now, what I would like to do is bring in my dear friend, my colleague, my co-host, Kathleen Hallal. And a little bit about Kathleen. Kathleen is dedicated to finding ways to shield our families and communities from harmful pesticides present in our food, parks, and surroundings. Her leadership led to Irvine, California, receiving an EPA award for adopting an official organics first IPM city policy, resulting in the successful organic maintenance of 62 parks and all city properties for over a decade. As a certified organic landscape professional accredited by NOFA, N-O-F-A, she guides residents in persuading landscaping departments and community leaders to embrace safer practices. The notable successes of regenerative organic methods are gaining recognition, showcasing the cost savings and environmental protections derived from fostering robust soils using these techniques. In a brief span, we've all witnessed a substantial rise from no acres to 40 million acres of farmland in the U.S. being managed by using regenerative practices, signaling the burgeoning growth of this movement. Whether in landscaping or architecture, the emphasis on soil health leads to diminished disease, weed, and pest issues, thereby reducing or eliminating the reliance on chemical inputs. And by steering clear of chemical products and opting for nutrient-rich foods, we can all play a role in safeguarding our health and environment while exploring healthier and efficient alternatives. There are many positive stories being told. Kathleen obtained her MA from the University of Southern California and employs her research expertise to propose improved strategies for managing our well-being and environment. Welcome, Kathleen Hallal.
Thank you, Laurie.
Our next guest is Pati Reiss. She also has an incredible story. Pati is a certified holistic health coach, nutrition recovery coach, educator, and a holistic chef. Her work focuses on teaching and coaching healthy lifestyle upgrades, addiction, mental health, nutrition, recovery, and holistic gourmet cooking. This is done using nutrition, food, amino acid therapy, meditation, and Qigong. Through her own healing recovery, Pati has found that vibrant health, hope, and recovery are possible and advocates this in all of her teachings. She is a graduate of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, New York City, New York, in 2000, and holds a Bachelor of Arts in Human Services, Elementary, and Special Education from Trinity College in Vermont. She has completed the Neuronutrition Therapy for Addictive Disorders training with the well-known Julia Ross in June of 2008, and her certification training as a nutrition recovery coach through the Alliance for Addiction Solutions. Pati works on staff as a recovery food educator and nutrition treatment consultant for the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition. She has been a board member promoting nutrition and integrative therapies for transforming the addictive brain since 2010. And she was president of the board of directors from 2014 to 2019. She currently has a private holistic health nutrition and recovery coaching practice in Salt Lake City, Utah. And she also works long distance with clients throughout the country. She is currently and has been teaching nutrition, meditation, and Qigong for recovery at Residential Treatment Program in Salt Lake City, Utah. She is the creator of the 5-Star Pro Recovery Diet and teaches this through the Academy of Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition and in her local community of Salt Lake City, Utah. Pati is the founder of High Vibe Recovery and Brain Kitchen Wellness. She offers brain nutrition cooking classes and Plate Up, which is a 5-week online class, loves doing holistic wellness retreats and educating and inspiring folks to eat real brain food. Welcome, Pati Reiss.
Thank you so much, Laurie.
MediaUtah.com. Our next host, another dear friend and colleague of ours, is Jessica Endiicott. A little bit about Jessica. She is an integrative mind-body therapist, and she is dedicated to the heart of healing and sustainable change, guiding those with addiction, mental health challenges, and brain injuries. Her personalized mentorship harmonizes yoga therapy, mindfulness, amino acid therapy, functional nutrition, where it all weaves together the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of well-being. She believes in the body's innate healing capabilities and offers a compassionate understanding of trauma's impact on overall health. Jessica focuses on lifestyle changes that go well beyond symptom management to address root cause issues. Her personalized wellness plans are grounded in her detailed assessments of her clients, biogenetic blueprints, and aim to restore balance across body, mind, and spirit. Jessica earned her credentials as a yoga therapist and a mindfulness instructor at the InBody Academy, where she worked as the student director and instructor. Jessica's role extended to mindfulness retreats and mindfulness programs for first line responders and veterans. Jessica furthered her holistic health expertise with certification from the Functional Nutrition Alliance. Her proficiency is further deepened as a certified nutrition recovery coach from the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition, where she has expanded her skills in amino acid therapy. Her holistic expertise has supported countless clients and also played a key role in her own personal recovery from a brain injury, physical ailments, and trauma, underscoring her deep connection to the healing journey. Jessica holds a business degree and is currently the owner and founder of Collective Healing Arts and Holistic Wellness Center. Welcome, Jessica,
Thank
to our
you.
first talk.
Thank you, Laurie. And I have the honor of introducing my beautiful colleague, Laurie. So Laurie Gagan is a holistic health nutrition coach and brain certified health coach with Dr. Amen Clinics. She has spent years helping clients address various emotional and health disorders through proper nutrition, supplementation, and amino acids. As a holistic health practitioner, Laurie focuses on helping her clients find the root cause of many illnesses, because food, water, and air are the root of so many illnesses. Laurie believes that by connecting the pieces of the puzzle with education, proper diet, improved sleep, better brain habits, and lab testing, that this can lead to healing the body and the mind. Many of her clients have been able to move away from big pharma and address their issues holistically. She likes to say, to heal the body, you must first fix the body at a cellular level, because if the gut is broken, the brain is broke as well. Laurie brings decades of expertise and passion to addressing the root cause of health. She's a graduate of Integrative Nutrition of New York City, a brain certified health coach with Dr. Amen of Amen Clinics, and a certified nutrition recovery coach from the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition. She currently has a private foundation where she coaches gratis across the US for families looking at how to not use medication as the way to fix a problem. Her favorite quote is from Hippocrates, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." Laurie is the founder of Stop Spraying Glyphosate and Lucky to Be Me. Her passion in life is helping people get healthy.
Thank you for that, Jessica. So here we are, ladies. Can you believe it's even happening? And
No.
I mean, honestly, I'm so honored that, first of all, meeting all of you. And second of all, being able to meet with Jill Watson, who introduced us to a wonderful group, Doug Yeaman and Dwayne Benson and other wonderful people. And so this is it. And it's something that we have been talking about for decades. But Kathleen, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about why you wanted to be part of the Wellness Crusaders?
Sorry, I had to turn on my mic. My reasoning is that I really feel a personal desire to share what I've learned with other people. And my own kids had autoimmune issues when they were young, and a big part of their recovery was diet. So in line with Pati, I know how much food can affect everything in your body, your health, your behavior, all of it. And once I learned that, and I learned from farmers what was sort of common practice out in the fields, and the way we actually should be eating by avoiding some of those chemicals or dangerous practices that are being done. I just feel a need to share what I've learned, and also, learn as we go along, and share with people who might need to know that information. So you are a wonderful group, all of you, and each of us brings something different to the table, that complements these same ideas that our environment and our health are dependent upon cleaning things up and following clean protocols that really improve our health, instead of, say, going on a medical path where you might take medications. There are alternative routes to go where if you can get better nutrition, for me, that's a large part of any battle with any health concerns. So I wanted to join the group to talk about regenerative farming and what's going on with farmers, and how exciting it is that there are these changes, these positive changes going on in the farming community, and consumers need to be aware of that. So I'd like to share my knowledge and help people know what to buy and what to eat.
Awesome. And Patti, what about you?
Well, I'm just so delighted to be here and have this platform. So I want to thank Main Street Media for that, because I've been looking for a platform, and I post some things on Facebook and Instagram, but it needed to be larger. And I want to reach, as all of us do, want to reach more people and help them feel joy again and feel hope. We have a lot of struggles out there right now, and a lot of struggles are because of our soil, because of the food we're eating, and some of the medications we're on, right? I wanted to share a little bit too, that I got started in this whole field when my son, who's now 39, was 5, and he was struggling with a runny nose. He had headaches, he had mood swings, and I wasn't sure what to do, right? And I was, one of the moms that didn't know about what was going on in the food. I didn't know. I thought what I was feeding my child was good, but as many of us know, the systemic issue too is we're not taught about nutrition in the brain and health in the school system, right? So I was like, okay, well, the school suggested we put him on Ritalin. And I was just like, well, what is that? Like, I didn't even know what that was. And I was like, well, that's a methamphetamine. As I looked it up, and I said, no, you're not putting my child on that. So I was living in Connecticut, and I'm originally from New York, and I was living in Connecticut at the time, and I heard a naturopathic doctor talk about food allergies and nutrition at this library, and all of a sudden the light bulbs went off, and I went, oh. So then I started making some changes in my home and studying nutrition, and then it moved further. So my 5-year-old son was the impetus for me to get started in this field. And I couldn't understand why my pediatrician wasn't talking about that. I was like, well, why isn't he telling me about this stuff? So it is what it is. We need to learn more about it, and the effects of eating well and helping people deal with anxiety, depression, a lot of the mental health that we're seeing, as well as physical health, is why I'm here. And like Laurie, I love that quote by Hippocrates: "Let food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be food." And I'll just add, and let it be delicious, because I think there's a part where people are like, you can't eat like healthy food and it tastes good. I said, no, that is not true. That is such a myth. So I want to share with our listeners that any recipe that you have can be upgraded to healthy, clean food that you can still eat. Because I think people think they have to just swipe it clean. And what we need to do is get rid of the toxic food and add in the nutrient dense food, and anything can be upgraded. And when people start doing that, all of a sudden they're feeding their brain, they feel good, and they're like, oh, I think I'll get back into my kitchen again and make some changes. So I just want to let our listeners know that there's so much available for all of you to feel better in your health, and also to have really yummy foods on your plate. So there you go.
I do have to say, Patti's food is super delicious.
I made some lemon squares today when Jessica was here. So, lemon squares are a favorite for lots of folks, Christmas cookies, and you can just make them nutrient dense. So I might come back to that later, but I think maybe Jessica wants to share now.
Oh, Well, you'll have to save one for us.
I will. I'm going to save one for each of you.
So what about you, Jessica? What was your reason for wanting to?
My reason for joining the crusade, or my reason for getting in this line of work, there's so many things that have led me to this point. It wasn't just one situation, it was many situations. I began studying health and wellness in 2003, and thought I was doing everything right. Thought that I had all the answers and the knowledge. And then my daughter, who at 12 years old was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. But we had done, it was very, very scary before she had that diagnosis of Hashimoto's, because her lymph nodes had swollen to the size of golf balls in her neck. And we had to have those biopsied. So what goes through a parent's mind, worst case scenario, my child's going to have lymphoma, my child's got cancer. And thank God that wasn't the case, but she was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And when I took her to the endocrinologist, and I said to the endocrinologist, why did this happen? He just said, it just happens. But I knew that there was a reason. And so I dug for answers. I dug deeper into that. And turns out she was allergic to gluten and dairy, right? So we went through this whole process of elimination, and she was healed. She no longer has Hashimoto's. She's 25 years old because it was an autoimmune response. Her body was allergic to the foods that we were giving her. So that was one instance. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was severely injured in a car accident where I sustained physical injuries and a brain injury, and I lost my job and couldn't take care of my family. A year later, my husband passed away from an opiate addiction. And so it was just watching instant situation after situation of where things were not working. The medical system wasn't working for me. And don't get me wrong, we need medical intervention too, right? We do need both though. We need them to come together, to merge together. And so I realized there was this gap. And I dug deeper into my healing. I started using I was determined to go drug-free. I wasn't going to use any drugs for my healing journey because I had lost my husband to addiction. And he was a victim of opiates in the medical system. He was given opiates by his hernia doctor and his dentist. So back to back, he had over 300 pills within just a short period of time where he became severely addicted to opiates. He did go through treatment, but what I realized with that treatment was that they weren't healing the brain. They were lacking the nutrition. They were lacking the brain health, the brain support. He was going to therapy, but that's only a small piece of it. Right. So when you experience that deep trauma, and when you experience a brain injury and physical pain, and you watch your child suffering, and you lose your spouse, and then you walk your mom through transitioning out of this world because of Alzheimer's, you dig for questions. When you see people around you, your friends suffering, taking their lives, you dig for answers. And that's what I've done. I've dedicated my life, my passion to finding the answers, to finding the resources, to understanding trauma, to understanding addiction, to understanding how the brain works, how the body works, and how our foods are so depleted in the nutrients and the minerals that we need. And that comes back to our soil and our water, right? Because if our soil is not nutrient dense, if our water is not clean, it's not watering our garden. It's not supportive of that. So it goes water, soil, food, and our health. And I want to educate people on that. There are, like Pati said, you can still have good, healthy, nutritious, delicious food. And there's alternatives. You don't have to, you replace it. You don't eliminate it. want to use that word replace, because when we feel that we have to eliminate things, then we feel like we're taking things away and that there's a lack, right? But if we use the word replace, now that's more open, it's more freeing. So I wanted to be part of that education, and I just can't even believe how full circle this has come, how connected we are in our journey of getting here. And I'm excited to share that after Laurie shares why she got into this realm.
So my story is really very similar to Patty's. My husband and I had a son, and about 12, the teacher, at the elementary school, who really honestly knows nothing about the brain. And at that time, I really didn't know anything about the brain. I didn't have parents that educated me on food. My dad, love him, he worked at a steel mill. They just didn't realize that food could be medicine. But even back then, food wasn't as toxic as it is now. And there's so many more herbicides that are being sprayed, in the system, that it's way more toxic in the air that parents now are trying to raise kids. And most parents honestly don't have the time to do the research that all of us combined here, probably 50 years of combined on a research. And when, our son was 12, and the teacher, who again knows nothing about the brain, was like, your kid needs to be put on Ritalin. And so I'm trying to search, what the heck is Ritalin? And then, like, Daddy, it's like, oh my God, that's like speed. And I'm like, I can't put my kid on that. But when the brain is depleted in foods that are not nutrient dense, and at that time, more and more Roundup was being sprayed, then what ends up happening are our children aren't getting the minerals and the amino acids that they need to support a healthy body and support a healthy brain. So in 2012, after our daughter graduated college, she went out in the workforce, and then 2 years later came back and said, oh, I'm going to go back to school to be a holistic health coach. Can you be my partner? And I'm like, oh, wow, your dad and I are running 2 businesses. She's like, oh, Mom, it's only like 5 hours a week. So I called it School of Integrative Nutrition, the same one that Patty went to. And they're like, yeah, probably 5, maybe 7, 8 hours. And I'm like, okay, well, I probably have that a week. Well, my type of brain likes to dive in, and 25 hours each week later for 1 full year, I learned so much more. And then someone introduced me to Dr. Amen. That's really when I fell in love with the brain and started learning about the gut-brain axis, meaning that the poison starts from something that's on the end of the fork. And as our body's digested and it moves through the digestive tract, our brains consume 33% of those calories, but 100% of the toxins. And that's when the light bulb went on for me. It's like our children, even our elderly adults, even the young moms, young dads who just don't know. They don't realize that this is what's happening. And often when I do my workshops, I always have a dropper on everybody's chair. And at the very end of it, I will say, for those of you who have Roundup herbicide or 2,4-D or glufosinate or Liberty, any type of a weed killer, would you go in there and take 1 drop, come back inside, put it on a spoon, and feed it to your child? And all of them say, well, of course I wouldn't. But I said, that's exactly what you're doing when you eat these foods, these conventional foods that are sprayed with all of these poisons. And I think the light bulb also goes on. And so, like the three of you, we've all had our dream of how do we start educating others?
Mhm.
And that's why Wellness Crusaders, our goal is to not only educate ourselves, but to educate every parent, every
Mhm.
every grandfather, even young teens, that we can say that food can be medicine and medicine can be food if
Mhm.
you learn proper techniques and how this actual poison works. So that was the reason, um, obviously, that I wanted to be part of it. But I guess we can chat about, because if people are listening to us, they're probably wondering what we're going to be able to offer. And because we offer solutions, I think
Mhm.
that's very empowering to our listeners.
Mhm.
So we can roundtable it,
Mhm.
start off with Kathleen, and let's talk about some of the items, some of the solutions that we're going to be providing to our listeners as we are building our own resource guide that
Mm.
we'll be able to email them. And we do have an email address. We'll share that at the end of our talk. But Kathleen, why don't you start? And then I guess we can just roundtable if we have all anything that we want to add. We'll just raise
Mhm.
our hand and say, hey, can I add something into that?
Okay, to me, the most recent thing that I've been getting very interested in is that organic is not enough. That for years, my family has eaten only organic. Even to this day, if you open my pantry or my fridge, everything has to be organic, or it has to be from a farmer that I know raised the food properly and didn't spray it. We really watch out for that in our household. All of our protein powders, oils, butters, flour, everything is completely clean. And I try as hard as I can to find out where it's sourced and who raised it. And we just, our health got so much better and we stopped seeing doctors that it just keeps us on that path. We eat out actually very seldom. We kind of shifted our budget and we spend more money on the organic food than and we stopped going to as many restaurants. We'll still go out, but not as often because, I know they're using oils that I wouldn't buy for myself, and they're using ingredients that, probably aren't vetted. So, we go out very little. We just eat at home. And what I really want to share with people is what I've been learning about what's going on beyond organic out there. The new movement is for regenerative farming. And the reason why that's important is because organic farming is still very good. And there are some very good organic farmers, but sort of the definition of organic kind of means the absence of pesticides, which is a very important step. But the second part of it that's even might be more important or is equally important is the regenerative part. We are losing our topsoil in the US due to the chemical systems of farming that were introduced with GMO farming and even just everyday conventional farming. These farmers are out there and they're working 400 hours, a week for 40 cents a year. Like they work so hard for nothing and they have my full respect. So many of them feel forced to use products like glyphosate, Roundup or glufosinate or different, chemicals, Endiicott, paraquat, whatever kind of weed control you have to use, fungicide, nitrogen fertilizers. Sometimes the fertilizer is what's called toxic sludge, which comes from our sewage plants, gets dried out, chopped up, and then they put it on the fields where they're growing our field or food. And there are all kinds of kind of scary things in toxic sludge. So these farmers are working as hard as they can, and I fully respect them, but I'm very fascinated with the regenerative movement because more or less what's happening is farmers are learning that they don't necessarily have to spend all that money on those chemicals and that they can manage their farms and their animals in healthier ways. And they save so much money on the one side, not buying all those chemicals, that in the end, when they get a premium for their crops, it all pencils out and they're actually making livings. So it's about money, but it's also about preserving the soil. And when farmers use regenerative processes, What it does is it doesn't only preserve the soil that's out there. It's not, quote, sustainable. It's not keeping what's out there. It is increasing the topsoil, increasing the nutrition, which comes through in our food, and it's healthier for us. So it's a win-win all around. Yes,
Kathleen,
Laurie.
can I ask a question? Because some of our listeners may not know what the word regenerative means because they're just getting started. Can you kind of just basically explain what that means?
Yes, of course. Regenerative means, I started to talk a little bit about it. It means regenerating the soil. Regenerative means bringing the health back to the soil and the animals and the property. And what happens when farmers start using these methods and they cut out the poisons, essentially poisons and pollutants, the soil comes back to life, from the microbes to the insects to different species of animals that come in, all kinds of birds. And then the farmers start to see an increase in the biodiversity of the plants on their property. For ranchers, they get several different kinds of grasses come back. They see undesirable shrubs and plants that they didn't want anyway start to disappear, and they get more beneficial insects. The beneficial insects actually help them to do the work on their farms and ranches. For example, the rancher I know in Mexico who's restored his family ranch. He was called in and he didn't plan on taking it over, but he took it over and he started regenerative practices. And he's actually doing all these things. And the termites took care of, I think it was the mesquite that he had. He didn't want all that mesquite. I guess it's seen as sort of an invasive kind of plant or bush. The termites took care of that, and the beetles, and they just carried it away and put it back into nature. And he's actually covered his ground with more species of grass, which are great for the cattle. And he's increased the rainfall on his ranch versus his neighbors' ranches. So it's very interesting, this process. It's all scientifically documented and proven, and it's kind of miraculous. Farmers don't really need all those chemicals. Sorry, Laurie, you had a question.
Oh, that's okay. And, for listeners that, are tuning into this, when we talk about amino acids, which are really proteins that can convert to missing chemicals known as neurotransmitters in our brain. One of the big ones, Kathleen and I are friends with Dr. Don Huber, and Dr. Don Huber is amazing, and he will probably more than likely be one of the people that Kathleen will be interviewing. One of his biggest things I know when I do my organic workshops with him is that there is an amino acid called tryptophan. Mm-hmm. And so when we think of, like a carrot grown back in 1920s, it was way more nutrient dense. And right now we have families that are thinking about, oh, I'm just going to eat a carrot. And let's just say it's on the conventional side. There's not as much nutrients in it as it was back in 1920. Because these farmers, because they are spraying all of these toxic herbicides and pesticides, the soil is not really even soil, it's pretty much dirt. But going back to tryptophan, which is an essential amino acid that our body cannot make. And amino acids, basically there's 9 amino acids that your body can't make. You either have to get them from foods or you have to supplement. But tryptophan converts to a chemical in your brain. Again, a chemical in your brain is known as a neurotransmitter, to 5-HTP, and 5-HTP converts over to what is known as serotonin. And the reason that this is important, that we keep giving these tips and tricks, is what is serotonin in the brain? Let's say you're deficient in it in the brain, and then somebody goes into their doctor, and the doctor doesn't know anything about the brain. He's not treating root cause. So somebody is overwhelmed, they're not calm, they can't switch the gear shifter off of the negative thought. It's like their tire is caught in the mud. And then a doctor, and not all doctors, because there are some doctors who are very much up on looking at food as medicine and medicine as food. So the person who's going in, says basically, I've got these anxious thoughts, I've got these overwhelming thoughts, the kids are driving me crazy, whatever it may be at home. And a doctor would say, oh, it sounds like you have anxiety, you have depression. Here's your big pharma pill, and it's going to be a cure-all. And I just have to say that if big pharma was the answer to the missing link, which is nutrient-dense food and amino acids, there would be no anxiety, no depression. We wouldn't be at the high rates of suicide right now in the state of Utah, let alone all across the country, if these parents, if these adults could really just understand the importance of how important soil is, how important food is, and that we can get our medicine from foods. We wouldn't have all of these autoimmune issues. I mean, big pharma makes billions of dollars. And I agree with Jessica that sometimes we do need conventional medicine, because if I fall and break an arm, I'm going to go to the hospital to get an x-ray. And there may be times in my life, I mean, I haven't taken an antibiotic in decades, but there may be times that somebody ends up getting sick and there is a need for an antibiotic. But I also too feel that when that comes, these doctors should be saying, listen, I'm going to give you an antibiotic, but you have to take a probiotic. And so it just goes back as we're talking, if we could just offer even like these tips and tricks so that our viewers, our listeners and viewers, because we're also posting to our Rumble channels and our YouTube channels, but they need these tips and tricks. And I think that is what's going to bring the community, the state of Utah, possibly surrounding states, back over to Main Street Media Utah, because we are giving them the truth and we are offering them solutions.
Right.
Radio. I would like to share a little bit more on serotonin for our listeners, because I think oftentimes people maybe some of our listeners have anxiety. I certainly had anxiety, and I had no connection to the fact that my serotonin was so depleted. I didn't know that. So serotonin, when serotonin is depleted, this amazing neurotransmitter, we can have that negative depression. As Laurie mentioned too, the lowest level of serotonin is suicide. I mean, that's real. And as Laurie mentioned, there's so much of that happening in our world right now. That's the biochemical link to suicide. Yes, there may be trauma. There may be just loss of interest in life, but we have to address the brain first. And of course, get trauma therapy and the other therapies that are important for that. But if the brain is not fed through protein and good fats and vegetables and amino acids, you can feel suicidal. And many of our young people are feeling that. But it's not just that. You can't sleep. You may have obsessive compulsive disorder. You may have just obsessive thoughts where the brain just doesn't shut off. That's also a symptom of low serotonin. And that's just one neurotransmitter. We're going to be talking about all the neurotransmitters. And also, I want our listeners to feel hope that this doesn't have to be like, it could feel overwhelming. It certainly did to me in the beginning, but one step at a time. You start adding protein into your diet, good protein that works for you, because we're also going to be talking about personalized food. That means what protein that works for me may be a little bit different than the protein that works for Jessica. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that, the personalized food. But the other one I just wanted to tap into because I thought it was really interesting. And there was a great book called by Dr. Lustig called The Hacking of the American Mind.
I think so.
The Hacking of the American Brain. And Dr. Lustig is a pediatrician. He's written some other books too, but I love that book. And what he talks about in that book is dopamine and serotonin. And I'm going to come back to that. But what he really started looking at was all these young children were coming into his office and he goes, okay, I'm doing all the genetic tests, I'm running all the tests. And what he came back with was, it was lifestyle. So that was the shift that needed to happen. So as we go into our kitchens and we start adding little changes into our diet, meditation, like Jessica talks about, slowing down, taking rest breaks, we start feeling better. We start going, oh, I'm going to go to the farmer's market and get my vegetables, and I'm going to get the meat at the farmer's market from the guy that's raising it without pesticides and hormones. Why would we want more hormones in our meat, right? And again, a lot of folks don't know that. But the slow steps, I just want our listeners to know that the slow steps lead to bigger steps, and that it's our birthright to feel well. And one of the things I just want to talk about is the dopamine, that we are a dopamine. There's a lot of books written about it too. There's Dopamine Nation. We're dopamine driven. So that means we want instant gratification, the internet, change, good, go, right, go, keep going, right? And so every time we change, our dopamine up regulates in our brain, and then it down regulates. And then it goes up and it goes down. And that's really the addictive cycle, right? We upregulate with our substance or our behavior, and then it down regulates. So the more, when we start eating well and we start practicing meditation, all of a sudden it's not this up and down yo-yo. It's this, oh, okay, I need to take a break right now. I need to take a break right now. I need to eat. I need to go have some food. I haven't eaten in 4 hours, so I need to eat. So I just want our listeners to know that we're going to be providing some wonderful solutions for that, so that if it does feel overwhelming now, hang in there, because we're going to talk about amino acid therapy. We're going to talk about personalized meal plans, meditation, lifestyle hacks that really help us feel better. And we're supposed to feel better. And as we look at what we're putting into our bodies and we make our choices with our food, we start to do that. So I wanted to interject that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on what everybody is saying too. So what Kathleen was saying about the regenerative farming and how important that is, we can regenerate ourselves, we can regenerate our brain. So just because like we're suffering health-wise and mentally, that doesn't mean that we can't create these changes. We're not our diagnosis. Our diagnosis is not our identity. It's not our destiny. And we can change that. We can shift that. We have the power. We have the power to make those changes. And that is what we are here to do, is to empower you and to educate you on how to create those changes. Now, one of the most important things to note too is that with amino acid therapy, it's penetrating the blood-brain barrier, and people are noticing a difference within as little as 20 minutes. So within as little as 20 minutes, we can shift your mood from feeling those anxious thoughts, from feeling those depressed thoughts, from wanting to take your life, into feeling calm and at ease and not ruminating in those thoughts, not having those OCD thoughts. And so there is hope. There are solutions. There are answers. And there's so much knowledge that the four of us have here to provide you with. We're going to be bringing in specialists in this field as well. So specialists in all of the arenas of health and wellness. And this is such an exciting movement, exciting group for us to be a part of, to be able to deliver this information to you. So I wanted to also talk about going back to the serotonin and the tryptophan. How are those depleted in our brain? How do we get to the place of those being depleted? Well, that's through food. So sugars, starches, and then substances, alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, opiates, pharmaceuticals, chocolate, and
Oh no, not the chocolate.
Yep, gaming, porn addiction, gambling, like all of these things, and even social media. Those scrolls through social media, they're depleting our neurotransmitters in our brain. But one of the things that's so amazing about our brain, it's neuroplastic. And with the neurotransmitters, once we start feeding them we are rebuilding them, and now they can recycle. And so we don't have to be on these for a long term either. Yes, Laurie?
So I'd like to add to what Jessica's saying for our listeners. So she said gaming, and think about all the children. I mean, I see them 3 years old, and sometimes I get it. You're at a restaurant, you're with the big group, you're going to put it in front of them. But think about all these kids who, and teenagers and young adults, and I see people in their 40s and 50s that are really addicted to the gaming on their phone, and even like Jessica said, texting, social media. But for all of these parents at home, and especially for like single moms and single dads, they don't have a lot of time. It's hard to raise a child, let alone to raise 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 children. But the phones and the gaming, it hurts, it harms their brain, because what happens is it creates another chemical. There's an uptick in another chemical, and I don't want to talk too much about this, another amino acid, but there's another amino acid that they get an uptick. And I don't know how many of our listeners have ever put a phone or a game or an iPad, and they're letting their kids game and text while they're maybe making dinner. And then they go to take the phone, the device, the electronic device away, and all of a sudden they're throwing a fit. It's because the other chemical known as dopamine, and I'm not going to really talk about it on this because I don't want to get people confused, but the other chemical called dopamine is in this seesaw effect with this serotonin. So now you've got this child who is getting pleasure from these electronic devices. And actually, this happened to myself. I had my 6-year-old granddaughter, and she was nebulizing. And so I put her in front of an iPad, and then it was time for bed, 5 minutes after that. Well, she's got so much of this excitatory chemicals going on in her brain. The only thing that she could do was to go back to the iPad and hold on to that iPad with dear life. But so many parents don't even know that. And we will have like simple tips and tricks. I mean, Kathleen, she consults all across the country for farmers and gardeners and HOAs on how to do the soil so it's not toxic, how to get away from the harmful herbicides and pesticides, and how to get into regenerative farming, working with farmers across the country. And Pati is teaching, families how to cook healthier foods. At the same time, she's training them about these important amino acids that we're not getting from the soil anymore. And Jessica does the same. She teaches families, just think if you could have 2 minutes or 5 minutes with teaching your children or your child mindfulness meditation, so that when they are throwing a fit, and all kids do, and all of us are moms, so we're not any different, we've been through it. But if you could teach them mindfulness practices, which we are all available for giving tips and tricks and consulting, and we are also building this resource guide that you will be able to get for free, where you will know that there are safe places, healthy places to get help, that there are solutions to spraying Roundup with other non-toxic chemicals, so that you're not taking the dropper, and you're not putting it on the spoon, and you're not feeding it to yourself or your child or your grandparents or your husband, even though some husbands do choose to eat glyphosate pizza. Anyway, but I just wanted to have that input. We've got about 5 minutes left, and then we are going to go over to Q&A, and hopefully we have some great callers that are going to get a great group of women with some questions and answers that they've been searching for. So does anybody have anything to add, except I want to tell you that I'm so honored to be on this journey with the three of you, because I really do think that we are going to impact Utah and other states with other listeners across the US and the world for that, because part of the amino acid therapy, there are students in these classes all around the world. So anyway, anybody want to add before we go into Q&A?
Well, I just wanted to add that we just picked up some glyphosate-free
Oh, you know what? I'm
flour
sorry,
yesterday.
Patty. Can I, for our listeners, can somebody shout out the phone number for our callers to call into? Does anybody
Oh.
have that handy?
I have it right here.
Go ahead.
Perfect.
Yes.
It is 385-899-2134. So 385
Awesome.
899-2134.
Got it? So
What's that? Oh,
we can hear you typing.
Who's typing?
Sorry, that was me.
Okay, all good.
I just want to add, the thing that I wanted to say is that it's exciting to make this change. You know, my family went through and did it and changed everything, and it's actually kind of fun. Our young boys didn't think so at first because they have the brands they like or whatever they're used to. But when you switch over, I mean, to Patty's point, the food that's raised properly has higher nutrition. And when it's more nutrient dense, it has more flavor. So
Right.
your food will actually improve in flavor when you switch over. And it's just a question of switching out, say, the kind of beef you're eating, or the kind of chicken broth you use, or the kinds of oils you use. It's not a big intimidating thing. And for us, it's been strictly rewarding. I mean, the meat we eat now and the produce, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. I wanted to share a really fun healing story that happened yesterday. So my niece's children, they had the flu. And so I was like, okay, I'm bringing over some bone broth, homemade bone broth. And by the way, homemade bone broth is not that hard. You can freeze it. It was in my freezer.
Yes.
And then my husband made a healing tea, and you can make your own healing teas. So I bring over the bone broth and the tea. I get over to the house, and they're all like laying on the couch and they couldn't get up. And I was just like, okay. And I said to the mom, my niece, I said, listen, it's only going to work if you make them take it. Right. So I said, you've got to have them drink it, even though they want something else. So apparently she did. She sends us a video last night, and she said, well, whatever you did, they're feeling a lot better. And in the video, they're running around, chasing and screaming
Oh, I love it.
Playing with each other. And I was just like, yes. So I want our listeners to know that, yes, bone broth or chicken soups, teas, things you can make in your kitchen can heal your children and yourself. And of course, I'm drinking the tea now because I don't want to pick anything up. And I have been well, so I wanted to share that because the video came through and I was like, yes.
Wow.
So just remember that it works.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Kind of goes back to food is medicine and medicine is food.
Yep.
And I think it's important to know too that if you don't have the taste buds for some of this food, it's only 2 weeks to change that. Like, it only takes 2 weeks for your taste buds to change and shift and start loving this new food. And if you have picky eaters, children that are picky eaters, we have solutions for that too. So
that's right. We made bone broth just yesterday. We had this incredible chicken. There's a company that raises chickens. I think they're nationwide now, but it's called Pasture Bird. And I don't know if you've ever tried those chickens, but they're just chickens raised the way they used to be. They get to go out in the fields and they peck and scratch and eat the worms, and they're very healthy and they're very happy. And there's so much flavor in these birds. So we'll, roast it and the whole family will eat it. And then I just toss the bones in a pan and let
Yep.
it simmer for a couple days, and bam, we have bone broth.
Yeah.
Which Pati
Yep.
And you-
jars,
and you
we
know-
freeze them.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to add on that for our listeners is that when we're making bone broth, it's so important to use pans that don't have aluminum, crock
yeah.
pots that don't have aluminum. Why? Because as you stay with us for every Thursday moving forward for the next year,
We're
from
bound
4
to
to
cover
6,
it. Yeah.
we are going to start talking also about heavy metals and aluminum, which there's so many people cook in aluminum foil. It's so toxic to the brain that actually when they do autopsies and people who have Alzheimer's and dementia, that they will often find high amounts of aluminum in the brain when they're doing the autopsies. So you will also get tips and tricks on the cookware, because most of the crock pots out there have this Teflon coating in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I know that looking at Teflon, and sometimes when you're missing Teflon in what you're cooking with, because maybe it's fallen off in the food, where do you think it's gone? It's in the food and we're feeding it. We're eating it. And it's very toxic to the body and to the brain. So you're not only going to get tips on food and soil, you're also going to get the tips and tricks on what foods are. But it looks like we have a caller. And Patty, you have anything?
Wait, Patty.
No, I just wanted to say we have a caller.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, let's take that first caller and see what they have to say.
All right, I got Taylor Buckley from locally here in Utah.
Awesome.
Taylor, you are now live with our Wellness Crusaders. What question would you like to ask them?
Hi. I heard Jessica talking about changing the taste buds of a picky eater within 2 weeks, and I have one son who's a very picky eater, so I wanted to learn more about that.
Go, Jess.
Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to find the healthy alternatives, right? So what is it that your child is picky with? Is it everything? Is it fruits and veggies?
It's everything that's not bread.
Everything that's not bread. Okay, so the very first thing that I would do is I would switch her to a gluten-free or a sourdough bread, and then start offering that and slowly creating the shift, right? So you're going to do gluten-free bread. You could do an almond butter, and almond butter would be a healthier alternative to peanut butter. And then you can do honey. So honey is a good sweetener, a very, very good sweetener. We would also want to look deeper too and see if maybe she's possibly zinc deficient, because if she's zinc deficient, that's also going to cause her to be picky. So there's also some testing that could be done, but that can also be done by, just the support of trying to shift the food first. If you need to dig deeper, we have experts here that we can all help with that. So.
And I think boys require more zinc than girls. So, maybe there is something out there or foods that we could give you that would be higher in zinc than other foods.
I also wanted to share with our caller that I was going to share this a little while ago, but there's a great bread that we discovered here by Gusty Grains, and they're based out of Provo. And it's a I can eat gluten again bread. It is glyphosate free. It's pesticide free. And we just picked up a whole bag of flour, but you can get the bread locally at the Redmond Farms. I think there's a couple different places you can get it. And I was gluten-free for a while. I know Jessica mentioned gluten-free. This bread is so delicious. I have had no issues with it at all, and I bet your child would love it. So that might be another thing. The other thing I was going to add to Jessica's almond butter is, you can sprinkle hemp seeds on there too. And I call them fairy sprinkles to the kids, that it helps them get, connect with the fairies, and their brain feels better. So just trying to like bring other things in, little magical stuff. And they, my niece's child was starting to eat it. She goes, well, the fairies are coming. And, I mean, maybe when she's dreaming, they'll come. But, anyway, the fact is she ate it because I was discussing about fairy sprinkles. So, and hemp seeds are one of my favorite to throw on peanut butter and jelly. They're delicious. They have high amounts of omega-3 and they have high amounts of protein. So I wanted to share that with you as well.
Do you grind them first, or can you grind them if it's for like a 1-year-old?
Yes, you could grind them. Totally. I have ground them before.
Okay.
And then you can keep it in an airtight, like a little glass jar in the fridge for probably a couple days. It'll last pretty good.
Okay. Couple days. So that's good to know. Don't store for a week or so. Kathleen,
the thing about seeds they are nature's power pack.
Yes.
And if you think about it, the seeds have all the energy in them required to create a new plant. So they have very high amounts of nutrition and they're really great for you, Patty. And they are kind of fairy seeds. I love it that you call them that. That's so clever.
Fairy sprinkles.
It's fairy sprinkles. It's really true. It's really true. They're always a great thing to add to our diet. And on that flour, I've heard the same thing. I've heard from a lot of celiac people that they can eat that kind of flour. I suspect it's the same kind. It's an ancient wheat. So it's not highly hybridized. It's not as high in gluten. And oftentimes people who can't tolerate other kinds of wheat can eat these kinds of flour. But it's great that you have a Utah source because it's hard to find. It's hard to find these farmers that are raising the right kind of food.
Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. It's just, it's so hard as a busy mom to make healthy foods all the time at home. And so sometimes I try to look for quick on the go options.
Well, we'll definitely be talking about that in our shows. So stay tuned because we want to provide solutions for that because we get it, man. It is challenging. But there are ways you can sneak a lot of stuff in. Let me tell you that. So,
I like the magical fairy dust or magical dust.
What do you call them? Fairy sprinkles?
I call them fairy sprinkles.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. What would a boy sprinkle be?
Superman sprinkles.
Yeah, superhero sprinkles.
Yeah. Muscle sprinkles.
Superpower.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling, and make sure you please spread the word about mainstreetmediautah.com.
Nice.
All right. Thank you, Taylor, for calling, and please continue to watch our show. We will be live again next weekend on Thursday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Utah local time.
Right on.
So I wanted to add in there, I was thinking about omegas, right? Do our callers really understand the importance of omega-3s and hemp seeds? Because hemp seeds are such a great way to get them. So maybe we should explain to them the importance of omega-3s because we have been talking a lot about the brain. So who wants to take that?
You
Anybody?
go, Jessica. You go.
Me? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
go,
do it.
Jess.
So omega-3s are very supportive for our brain being able to function. They are neuroprotective, anti-inflammatory. They are an essential fatty acid that we need to be able to function optimally. They also help support our heart and protect our heart. So these omega-3s, it's a very, very crucial oil. So we can get it in oils, we can get it in our foods, we can get it through supplementation. There is a myth out there that some of the omega-3s are oxidated and that they can cause more inflammation. And so you want to make sure that you're getting these from a good, high quality source. And we have resources. So we have a big resource list that we're building to be able to provide this to you guys. So to all of our callers. But omegas are critical, and omega-6s are also necessary. But let's talk more about the oils then, since we're on this subject. Okay, so in the very beginning, Kathleen was talking about how she eats at home, and how she talked about purchasing organic products, that sometimes purchasing organic products isn't all that you need to do. You need to make sure that you're reading the labels.
Right.
Reading the labels of food is critical, making sure that you're receiving good, healthy oils in these organic products, because just because they say organic doesn't mean every single ingredient in there is good. So there are some oils that are rancid, and these rancid oils cause inflammation in our cells. When our cells are inflamed, nutrients cannot get in and toxins cannot get out. So every single cell in our body has this beautiful protective membrane. But when we are feeding our body inflammatory foods or these inflammatory oils, which are canola oil, vegetable oil, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. Canola oil, grapeseed oil, vegetable oil.
Do they still have
Sunflower
Crisco oil?
So, yep. Crisco oil, all of these things, then they're causing inflammation. So the oils we want: avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee.
And Kathleen's a big proponent of real butter.
Olive oil.
Oh, heck
real
yeah.
Butter. Yep, real butter.
Fake butter. No fake butter. I think we have a caller.
Awesome. DJ Flyboy.
Yeah, DJ Flyboy.
Flyboy.
All right, we have Jim Smith calling from out of state. Jim Smith, you are on with the Wellness Crusaders. What is your question for them today?
We can't hear Jim.
Jim, are you still there?
Yes.
Hey, Jim. All right, the Wellness Crusaders are here. What question do you have for them today?
I'd like to clean up my diet, and I'm not sure where to start. So, what can I do that's simple and easy to get started getting healthy?
Ooh.
Ooh, who was, you know what? I'll lead.
Okay, you lead Laurie up, and I'll follow.
Okay.
Okay.
So I always say, and I mean, Jessica's always said, it's not really eliminating everything. But if your diet is not healthy, I always say crowding out with healthier options. So let's just say that you're mostly a meat eater and you eat very little vegetables, and vegetables are where we get our antioxidants and some of our flavonoids. So you could reduce the meat size of your portion, and you can crowd in a little broccoli, steamed broccoli with some really grass-fed butter, grass-fed ghee. You can add a little bit of salad, and you can adjust the portion sizes on that. But I always say that if you go to EWG.org, it's environmentalworkinggroup.org. You can actually find that on my own website, stopsprayingglyphosate.com, which glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. You can also find a link to that. And you can find the types of foods there that are healthier options, foods sprayed with a little bit, no herbicides and pesticides. And you can start crowding those in until you find something that you like to eat, because there are really good, healthier options. And removing the starches really kind of wreak havoc on your body. And Jessica had mentioned inflammation, which honestly, most conventional medicine doctors don't even look for. And inflammation is 99% of disease out there. And when chronic inflammation turns into systemic inflammation, that's where disease and autoimmune issues begin. And so what you want to do is be proactive about that. And that's why you want to crowd in foods that have, the colorful foods. I mean, the foods, honestly, that I look at that God gave us, where Hippocrates looks at these as food as medicine. And there's so many different colorful fruits and vegetables out there that you can crowd in as you're reducing some of the starchier carbs or maybe some of the unhealthier proteins. Do you want to add to that, Patty?
That's great. Yeah. Well, there's so much I could say, but one of the things that's coming up is if you do want to have some grains, I would soak them. Our ancestors did it that way. They soaked the grains to get rid of the phytic acid. So one of the things that happens on our grains and on our nuts and our beans are there's a coating on it called phytic acid to protect it to last longer. So we soak our grains and our beans, and we soak our grains and beans in lemon water. It helps a little bit. It's from the Sally Fallon Nourishing Traditions cookbook, which is actually the only cookbook we use as we're writing our own, but it's a fantastic book. If you don't know that, to the caller, and soak it in a little lemon water and then drain it and then cook it. You have to decrease the water a little bit. And it's the same thing with nuts. If you're soaking nuts, I mean, you want to soak your nuts, but you want to add a little bit of salt to that to help it also remove the phytic acid. And that way, when you cook it, it's more digestible. So I would add that. And the thing that Laurie said too to our caller, colors. I'm like, wow, I haven't had anything red. So I added some beets, or I add some radicchio into my salad. The colors add different nutrients as well too. So I would just throw that in there to what Laurie said.
Eat the rainbow.
Eat the rainbow there.
I would just throw in that you can do it gradually, Jim.
Yes.
Do it like item by item in your kitchen over time. It's not an overnight overwhelming kind of thing. Start with your oils maybe, or start gradually, section by section.
Nice.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say that the very first thing that I always say to get rid of is the oils. Switch the oils out.
Yeah.
Switch those out.
It's the easiest.
Okay, I think we have another caller.
Jim want to know what oils.
So coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil, butter or ghee. And you want to make sure that the oils are in a dark glass bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And what about, Jessica, what about walnut oil for high heat? Because I know olive oil shouldn't really be used as high heat.
Olive oil, yeah. Well, go ahead.
No, I actually prefer avocado oil for high heat because it can go up to 400 degrees. Okay. So an avocado oil does not have an unpleasant flavor. It's really delicious and nutritious.
And they have it at Costco. A lot of Costco's have it, the organic version, or a lot of stores like Sprouts. You can find good avocado oil. And the other compromise that you might sometimes have to make is maybe certain oils don't have to be organic. I mean, I prefer organic, but if you're easing into this, Jessica, what do you think about, because there's a lot of avocado oil out there that's not necessarily organic. Do you think that kind of oil might be okay because it has a thick skin around the avocado, or?
Primal Kitchen makes a really good one. I would recommend that brand. I would just make sure that you're looking for a glass bottle. So if you cannot get organic, make sure you're looking for one that's in a glass bottle that's dark, because you don't want the plastic leaching into it. And that's a whole other topic that we get to discuss too.
Wonderful. I think we need to we have some more callers calling in. So I hope that helped our caller.
Thank you for calling in. And if you could please spread the word about MainStreetMediaUtah.com and the Wellness Crusaders, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to be on every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Jim. And you have a wonderful day. All right. We have another caller here on the phone. What's your name, or brand new caller?
My name is Terry.
Hey, Terry. And what question do you have for our lovely ladies?
I would like to ask about healthy fats and feeding the brain. I've got Scandinavian heritage and suffer from brain fog. And I had heard that there was, there is a treatment that's using high doses of omegas to help treat that.
So you said you were of Scandinavia descent?
Yeah, Scandinavian, Scottish, Irish.
So there are a lot of studies, and we would be happy to share that with you. We're actually going to share our email address. This came out of actually the amino acid therapy training that we had went through. But there is an oil. It's called GLA, but it's primrose and borage oil. That there are certain nationalities like Scandinavian, Irish. What was the other one, Jessica? American Indian, yeah, Native American. The descent from Europe, where they have a certain genetic disorder, a gene that you inherited from your mom or dad that requires a different type of omega. And it could be something that we would definitely further love to talk with you about. And again, we're going to give our email address, but that could definitely be something we could discuss with you, because omega-3/6 may not be the right type of fish oil for you. You may need something like a borage oil or a primrose. Would you like to ask and add to that, Jessica, while we're waiting, going to the next caller?
No, I think that what you said was great. I mean, that is true. That's the knowledge that I have from it as well. It's 280 milligrams per day is what the recommended dosage is, or for people of that descent. Now, going further into the brain fog and everything and looking at the high dose omegas, that's definitely something that you would want to work one-on-one with a coach on, because it is a more personalized question and a personalized approach. And there are a couple of contraindications that we would want to make sure of, just which could be bleeding issues, right? That would be a contraindication. We just want to make sure that you don't have thin blood already, or that you're on any blood thinners. So definitely reach out to one of us individually so that we could do a consultation. We do offer initial consultations for free. And so our email is info@thewellnesscrusaders.com.
And I'll add to that too, because, if you're only doing like a low dose fish type of oil, you could definitely go to one of the more like a natural grocers, which they're pretty much all over in the state of Utah, Whole Foods, a natural vitamin store. And you could just try the primrose or the borage oil to see if that makes you feel any better, because you're not going to high dose it, but you would just stop taking whatever fish oil you are on right now and then try the others. As directed on the bottle, of course. And like Jessica said, we'd be happy to work with you one-on-one, because we are here to really try to educate people on the healing. So if you want to reach out to one of us on that email address, we will certainly get back to you on that. But thank you for calling in, Jerry, and we look forward to hearing from you.
All right, ladies, I have another caller. His name is Michael. Michael, you are on with the Wellness Crusaders. What is your question for them?
Basically, I'm sick right now, and I'm looking for any healing, ideas they have to help me get over this.
What are you sick with, Michael? What are your symptoms?
So I'm just got, I had gotten better and then I just got sick again. The symptoms, a lot of congestion right now. Really lethargic and really tired. And I don't know, it seems like this year with the pollution that gets really bad, sometimes I feel like that affects me. But I'm just kind of surprised because I haven't been sick this entire year till just recently. But any ideas on things I can do to help me would be great.
Yeah, so okay, so first of all, what have you tried? How long have you been sick? So you're congested. Do you have a fever? Are you experiencing body aches and pains? Sore throat?
Right now. I started with the sore throat, but that's gone.
Okay, so I can tell you what I would do. But obviously we're going to say that you would need to make sure you always seek medical treatment too, right? The health of a healthcare professional. But if this were me, I would get started on bone broth immediately because bone broth is going to give you a lot of the vital nutrients that you need. It's one of those comfort foods for a reason. You could do lymphatic drainage techniques, and I do have a video to share on that. That's going to help with some of the congestion and getting rid of some of the drainage. So that will help with the congestion. There's garlic is a natural immune booster, and it also is an expectorant, and so are onion. So you could actually make a really yummy, disgusting onion drink. So
I'm going to chime in, Jessica. There are really delicious garlic soup recipes.
Okay. Yep. And you can do that.
Yeah, we make sometimes when we're feeling under the weather. We just make sure the ingredients are all, clean and organic, and then we make some garlic soup. And onion and garlic, it will chase everything away, including your neighbors. But it's
and the vampires. Yeah. So the onion drink too is 1 cup of water with half of a chopped up onion, and then a little bit of honey, and you put it in a blender and you mix it, and then you drink that throughout the day, and that's really going to help with that congestion as well. So these are some of the natural things. Yeah. And whatever you do, our immune system is the system in our body that reacts the quickest to changes. So vitamin C, is a good thing to help boost the system. Zinc, vitamin D, some of these natural products that you've heard so much about. But again, like getting to the correct dosage is something that you would want to work one-on-one with a coach with.
And obviously too, trying to choose organic where you can, especially, off of the Dirty Dozen. And for those of our listeners who don't know what the Dirty Dozen is, the Dirty Dozen are the 12 foods that are sprayed with the most amount of chemicals. So we go back to the dropper where we say, okay, would you be willing to take 1 dropper of Roundup or some other type of herbicide and place that into your food or on your spoon? So I definitely say take a visit at Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, or stopsprayingglyphosate.com to find that. But you just have to remember you need foods that are nutrient dense, but we'd be happy to discuss that further with you. So we'll be posting our email, and you can get rid of one of us, and we would be happy to work with you. Knowledge is power, and you've got 4 of us here that are filled with knowledge. But thank you for calling in, Michael.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, Mike, for calling in. Please make sure to check in with us next week on Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. local Utah time, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Feeling better.
All right. We have another caller here. Our caller here is Steve. Steve, what question do you have for our friends over our Wellness Crusader friends?
They can be my friends. They want to be.
It depends.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. This is very informative. A lot of this stuff I've never heard before, and you just have to take for granted that you put stuff in your body and it's supposed to be good, right? I mean, well, relatively good. We're not eating chips and things like that. Part of my concern is our drinking water, and I'm wondering how much you guys have gotten into that. What's in our drinking water? Does Roundup, for example, make its way into our drinking water? And although I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist, would it be easy to, I mean, the World Economic Forum wants to, and if they've announced they want to reduce the world population, wouldn't that be a really easy way to do it, for example?
I'll answer that question. I don't know. I'm not going to address that. I don't know about that, but I will tell you that it's very important to have a very healthy water supply, and that personally in my family we use a filtration system that you can find at Persanova.com. It's PURSANOVA.com. And the owner has become a friend, and he's an engineer and medical doctor as well. And his son was ill, so he invented this water system. And he does most of what he does on an industrial level. He works for farmers. When they use his water system, their yields are increased. He takes care of many of the florists down in Ecuador, the companies that raise flowers, because when they use his water, the cut flowers last an additional 10 days. Cruise lines use his systems, but he also has systems for your home under the sink or whole house. And it's not inexpensive, but it's the real deal. And he understands about the energy in water and the minerals, and he makes sure he has an RO system, but he makes sure that it's not hungry water, so it's healthy for your body. And that's who I personally, that's my personal experience. I would recommend that company.
And, let me add to that, Steve. So I'm not a conspiracy theorist either, but I do understand that there are times that the government and Big Pharma doesn't want this information out. And so there was a really inexpensive water system called Berkey, and so many people had this system. And their filtration was superb. I mean, basically you could throw swamp water in there and drink it. But what happened is they were just really educating consumers, around the world actually, on what ends up in our water. And if you think about it, when they are spraying these herbicides, they end up in our water system, and then they're transferred through the aqueducts. And in the state of Utah, if you have ever looked at the aqueducts out in Cedar City, which is a majority of the farmers spraying these poisonous herbicides, and I like to say deadly because, there's so many lawsuits right now with Roundup and millions and billions of dollars in settlement. If you have these aqueducts and they're carrying the toxic water with all of these these herbicides and pesticides, which just by default, they go into our ground, and we take a look, then we're drinking them. So it's important to know that any system that you're going to use is going to filter out these herbicides. There are some $99 water type of testing that you can do. If you go out again to the EWG.org or the Detox Project, that's where I usually go. If you go to Detox Project, you can get these like water systems. But going back to, Berkey, it was one of those water systems that most households honestly could afford. And now they just put out an announcement because the government tried to sue them and they can no longer keep their doors open and they're closing, which is
Well,
sad.
It's the EPA. The EPA actually decided to categorize their filter, which is a carbon filter system. They decided to categorize it as a pesticide, and so Berkey is fighting back. The EPA determined it was a pesticide because the filters contain silver, which is a natural antibiotic, and so there is a case. Berkey may be able to fight it, but there is another countertop product that's very good that also is good enough to take out PFAS and a lot of the chemicals that you have.
Kathleen, what are PFAS?
PFAS, they're fluorocarbons that we don't want to be drinking, and they're actually sadly pervasive throughout our environment. There are chemicals, if you're close to a military base, you could have benzene or remnants of jet fuel in your water system, but there is a countertop system that you can get that's much more reasonably priced than the Personova systems, and that's called AquaTru. It's AQUATRU. And since we can't get the Berkey's, Laurie's correct, it's really a shame. AquaTru has more affordable systems, and they're even having specials right now during the holiday season. So,
and that was designed by Dr. Mark Hyman. And another thing, Steve, is you could check with your city to see if they are putting fluoride in the water, because fluoride is actually really dangerous for the brain. It's known as a neurotoxin. So you can check with your city to see if fluoride is going into your water, and then whatever system you end up with, you want to make sure 100% that it's capable of filtering out fluoride.
And we'll be creating a list on our resource guide as well, Steve, of these different water filter systems that you can check back in with on our website.
wellnesscrusaders.com.
That would be awesome.
But thank you for calling in, and we would appreciate if you could spread the word about mainstreetmedia.com. We are the Wellness Crusaders, but I know there's some amazing people talking, politics. So you can find a whole host of really great hosts out there. So if you could spread the word, we would really appreciate it. But thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye, Steve. Have a great Christmas. And Merry Christmas. All right. Our next caller is Lynn Fountain. She is local here from Utah. Lynn, what is your question that you have for the Wellness Crusaders?
Well, a long time ago, when my little boy was little, he was sitting under a tree while his dad was trimming it up, and I've always chalked it up to he got over-pollinated, but it attacked his glands, just like the one gal was saying about what disease was it her son had?
Hashimoto's.
Quasimodo. They tested him for that, but whatever it was, I think it was, now listening to you guys, that because the tree had been sprayed and he's sitting on the ground under the tree, he got sprayed with poison. And so then, super sick, in the hospital, IV, spinal taps, and it just ran its course through every gland in his body.
Oh, God bless.
And then, 14, 15 years later, he comes up with kyphosis of the backbone. And they keep telling me, there's no reason, there's no rhyme, it's just there, the way it is. What do you guys think?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. What condition did he develop?
Started out with a lump on his neck on the left side, and they put him on antibiotics, and then he got red dots all over his body, so they switched antibiotics. He had stomach pains. His stomach would just cramp over and over, and it went on for a week. Finally got him going to the hospital, and they started testing for Quasimodo. Wasn't that. They did every test you could think of. They finally did a spinal tap. They went in and did exploratory surgery, and he had water around his kidneys and his liver. And they drew the water off and took his appendix out, even though they weren't bad. And then they sewed him up, and he was fine. But I think that it was the tree had been sprayed, and I think all of that, whatever it was sprayed with, even though it had been a long time, it attacked my son's body.
Well, you know, Lynn, that it's really never too late for anyone to start down the path of healing and wellness. It's important that you let him know that Wellness Crusaders could definitely help him with coming up with an answer. And with everything that he has been through, it kind of goes back to and I'm just going to say this because I believe in root cause medicine, and root cause medicine is truly looking at the symptoms and then going upstream to see what's causing the problem. And you kind of hit it on the spot that you think that the tree had poison on it, and the doctors were more interested in doing testing and possibly removing an organ that needed to be removed. But it's never too late in life when somebody really truly wants to go down and take a look at how do they heal. Because I think we all have our own stories. Listen, I wasn't always organic. Back in my younger days, I didn't really know anything about Roundup. But when my eyes were opened, it's when I kind of started cleaning up my life. My parents didn't know. But if he's really open and he wants to get in touch with us, he can definitely send us an email. And we would be happy to work with him. And we really appreciate you calling in. And we hope that you'll spread the word about MainStreetMediaUtah.com and the Wellness Crusaders. But honestly, we are here for the people of Utah. And eventually it'll be for people all across the U.S. But we are wanting to educate on toxic soil and what it does to the body.
Yeah,
It
and I just,
all starts from the ground up,
Yes.
yeah.
you know?
Well, and I just want to empathize with you, and also, like, I'm sure that was so scary for you to go through as a parent, Lynn, and how wonderful and beautiful you are. So he's so lucky that he has a mom like you that's so caring and loving. And I know that was probably very, very traumatizing for you too. So if you continue listening to our show, which we hope you do, there's information coming with how to help navigate through those trials as well for you as a parent.
So thank you for calling in.
You
Okay. All right, ladies. So as we are getting ready to bring our first talk to a wrap, what other tips and tricks, now that we have had several callers call in, what other tips and tricks do we have for them? Because people are definitely becoming more aware. And so it's important that we leave them with a few places. We've talked a lot, so how do we want to end?
Yeah, I think visiting our website, thewellnesscrusaders.com, there is a place where you can sign up for our newsletter too, because we will also be sending out a newsletter with information. And I just want to leave with hope. Like I want our callers to know that there is hope, that there's answers, there's solutions, and we've got such an incredible group here. We are researchers, we are educators, we want to get to the bottom of things, and I want them to also know that they're not alone. They're not alone in their struggles. They're not alone in this overwhelming place that they're feeling, right? Emotionally, physically, whatever it is, that we are here to support them. That we do care. That we do care. This is our mission. This is our purpose, and we do care. We want to help.
Kathleen, can you add to that, because I know that you consult all across the country, really, in educating, toxic dirt versus healthy soil, and for farmers and gardeners and HOAs, and can you add to that?
To me, the first step is kind of what Patti said. Get to know your local farmers market, and we will help with sourcing. But even in winter, we will help you to find the sources of the healthier food. But there are markets like Sprouts, Whole Foods, natural grocers, my personal favorite, probably, for starting to buy healthier food. And it is an investment. It will cost a bit more, but it costs a lot less than going to the doctor. I'll say that. So step by step, and we will be covering all kinds of ideas and ways you can swap things out in your kitchen on the show. And we touched on a lot of it today, but I would say think step by step and keep watching.
And I'll just add to what Kathleen said, that we will also be adding, we'll be interviewing people from all over the country, from scientists to farmers to nutritionists to other health experts to doctors, lawyers. Why lawyers? Because, sometimes we want our listeners to know that they also have rights to demand healthier food options in schools, because we know that the standard American diet, or the SAD diet, is destroying our children. There is no nutrition in it. All it is filled with crap and sugar. So, we'll be doing lots of interviews as we get through this program. But Patti, do you have anything that you want to leave with?
Yes, I do. I would just invite folks to just connect in with themselves when they wake up in the morning. And our thoughts are very powerful. So if we wake up and we're in a negative mood, just maybe switch over to gratitude and ask your higher self, if you want to say God or spirit or the universe, whatever word. We have a lot of support that way too. And just say, please guide me in making choices for my health today, because self-care is self-love. And the more we can start putting time into going, okay, I'm worth caring for. And when we care for ourselves, we can then care for others as well too. So just put that into your morning practice. And I like to do it when I first wake up. I like to come into gratitude and say, thank you for my life. Thank you for me learning what I need to learn today to take care of myself and my family.
Thank you for another day.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Well, as we come to a wrap, our next talk show is December 28th. We are going to go further into our talks, getting a little deeper, more than likely starting off with the soil, so that we can start teaching you and educating you that nutrient-dense foods has to start in the soil. And in order to do that, we need to remove the poison. And in January, we look forward to all of our interviewers and that we are going to be having. But I thank each and every one of our listeners out there, and we truly look forward to hearing from you. So Jessica, do you want to leave them with the email address again?
Yeah, so it's info@thewellnesscrusaders.com. So that's INFO, the @ symbol, the THE wellness, WELLNESS, Crusaders, CRUSADERS.com.
Well, thank you. Thank you, ladies. I love all of you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that we're here to educate Utah, where they can come and really truly find the truth. And thank you, MainStreetMediaUtah.com, for allowing us to have a voice and speak the truth on soil, health, and wellness. I hope everybody out there has a Merry Christmas, and we will be talking next week. But good night for now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Good
Much
night.
love.